Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q1 FY22 results conference call of Puravankara Limited, hosted by Emkay Global Financial Services. We have with us today Mr. Ashish Puravankara, Managing Director, Mr. Vishnu Murthy, Senior Vice President, Risk and Control, Mr. Abhishek Kapoor, Chief Executive Officer, and Mr. Neeraj Gautam, Executive Vice President, Finance. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of today's presentation. Should you need assistance during the conference, please signal an operator by pressing star, then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Rahul Jain of Emkay Global. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome the management and thank them for this opportunity. I shall now hand over the call to the management, Mr. Neeraj Gautam, Vice President Finance, for the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening and warm welcome to all of you. I hope all of you and your loved ones are safe, doing well. Thank you for joining us for Puravankara Limited's earnings call for the first quarter of the financial year FY 2022. My name is Neeraj Gautam. I am Executive Vice President of Puravankara Limited. The quarter's investor presentation and financial results ended June 30, 2021, uploaded on the stock exchanges. I will start with a brief update on the business and highlights of the quarter. Following that, my colleagues and I would be delighted to answer any questions you may have in pick suggestions you would like to give us. After a robust last financial year, we started the current quarter with lockdown in April and May. We have seen a good recovery beginning from June, and we are confident of strong sales momentum going forward. Coming to the business highlights, we have ended the quarter with a sound momentum in Q1 FY 2022. Sales booking stood at 0.42 million square feet from 296 units with a sales value of INR 314 crore. Our focus on selling ready inventory has brought down our ready-to-move in stock to 0.47 million square feet as of June 30th, 2021. It's encouraging to see the improvement in price realization during the quarter. The sales realization up by 30% year-on-year to INR 7,473 per square feet compared to INR 5,768 per square feet during the corresponding quarter last year. We have completed the transaction of the strategic exit from one of our commercial projects during the quarter for INR 685 crore. We have already received 515 crore during the quarter. We have deployed this fund into business operations and reducing of debt. Coming to the detailed financial performance of quarter. Consolidated revenue for Q1 FY22 was INR 542 crore compared to INR 191 crore in the previous year's corresponding quarter, implying year-on-year growth of 184%. EBITDA for the quarter was INR 386 crore compared to INR 67 crore during the same period last year, up by around 6 times on a year-on-year basis. We have achieved a profit before tax of INR 293 crore during the quarter compared to a negative PBT of INR 23 crore during the corresponding quarter of the previous year. Profit after tax for the quarter was INR 155 crore compared to a loss of INR 17 crore during the corresponding quarter of the last year. We have also opted for a new income tax rate of 22% under Section 115 BAA of Income Tax Act 1961 for the financial year and coming financial year. It will benefit the company for reduced income tax outflow during the current year as well as coming years. As per provision of the Income Tax Act, we had to restate deferred tax assets and MAT credit, which resulted in additional tax expense of 68 crore during the quarter. There is no tax outflow due to this restatement of deferred tax assets, and hence the profit after tax for the quarter should be read with this no tax outflow due to this restatement of deferred tax assets. We maintain our focus on collection. Despite lockdown during first 2 months of the quarter, operating inflow for the Q1 FY22 stood at 871 crore, which is higher by 335% year-on-year compared to INR 188 crore during Q1 FY21. Our efforts on paring our debt levels continue. We have reduced our debt by 451 crore during the quarter. Our net debt to equity ratio is improving consistently and stands at 0.9 times versus 1.34 times a year ago. we are delighted to inform you that ICRA has upgraded our credit rating to ICRA A- stable outlook and short-term basis A2+. We have also fast-tracked our digital initiatives. We have signed with SAP to adopt their latest offering, RISE with S/4HANA Cloud ERP, and engage IBM as an implementation partner. Our goal is to provide completely digital environment to our customers going forward basis through a dedicated application from online booking, virtual to the project, tracking of construction progress, receiving and paying demands, view of the statement of accounts, etc. With this, I conclude my remarks. Thank you all for joining this conference call. We would now be happy to answer any questions, comments, or suggestions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. If you have a question, you may enter star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. If your questions have been answered and you wish to withdraw yourself from the queue, you may enter star and 2. Ladies and gentlemen, you are requested to use handsets while asking a question. We will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We have the first question from the line of Parthav Jhonsa from NVS Brokerage. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Congratulations on a great set of numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sir, I've just got a couple of questions. Just wanted to understand that, you have given a spectacular result on consolidated basis, in Q1. My first question is, how do you perceive, Q2, Q3, Q4 going forward for this particular financial year? And sir, I couldn't get your, explanation on the deferred tax charge. I think I missed in between. And what is the expected, sales what the company is expecting in next 3 quarters, sir?
I'll take the first half of the question and I'll leave the tax explanation to Neeraj.
Sure, sir.
On the sales, today, but for the disruption that comes on account of lockdowns and COVID, we've seen that there's been a huge polarization of buying that's happened to the top brand. Just certain points of reference would be, if you look at our ready-to-move inventory, which about 2 years ago was at 2 million plus, today sits at 0.47 million square foot.
Correct.
If you see our ongoing projects as well, we've seen good, strong sales. If you look at our new launches have done well as well, right? So therefore, we believe that the current projects that we have a fantastic 14 million square foot of lineup of launches over the next 12 to 15 months across the Provident brand, Puravankara brand, and our new vertical, which is Purva Land, which is plotted development. Each 3 of these verticals have launches planned in markets of Bangalore, Chennai, Cochin, Pune, Mumbai, in these cities. And I think these are really good projects. So when I couple both, I think we should see a strong sales for this year. Again, I think the only caution is, when you're physically locked down or you have weekend lockdowns, it does affect, site visits, etc. But if there is no big surprise from COVID, I think it should be a good year.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Now for the tax part of it, if you look at our financial statement, our profit before tax for the quarter was 293 crore. Tax expense for the quarter was 139 crore, and thereby profit after tax was 155 crore. This 139 crore tax comprised of 68 crore of impairment of deferred tax assets.
Okay.
We have moved to new tax regime. Earlier, our tax rate was 35%. Now, we are opting for 22% tax rate plus the surcharge and cess, etc. Effective tax rate for the current financial year as well as coming financial year, it will be 25%. And hence, different of 9%, we have to impair the deferred tax asset.
Okay.
And the point is, these are not essentially any tax outflow because of that. So only a accounting entry of 68 crore. So my profit should be read with 154 plus the 68 crore because there will not be any tax outflow because of it.
It's merely 200 crores of profitability.
Yes.
Okay. And sir, my last question is pertaining to the debt. Right now, after quite a few number of quarters, we have, 0.9 net debt to equity. Any plans or what is, your internal understanding on the debt reducing over next 3 or maybe even next 1.5 years kind of time frame?
So first, I think let's appreciate the fact that I think if I go back 2 years, we were sitting at a net debt number of in the region of 2,900 odd. Today, that number has come down significantly. We believe that as a business, with the number of launches that we have, we are comfortable at a debt rate anywhere between 2,000 to 2,200 crores. Is something I don't want to get into a ratio per se, but I think that's the number I think which is very comfortable. I think we've also got a rating upgrade from ICRA, which is A-, and also up to 3,000 crores of debt in a similar sort of rating. As we launch projects, I think you should see that debt number coming down. There may be a little bit of increase here and there on account of CF. The most important fact I think that one needs to appreciate is why did the debt go up over the last 3 to 4 years and why it has even come down. I think that concept needs to be understood. I think about 4 or 5 years ago we had extremely large launches and we had opened up larger phases. We corrected that launch sort of pattern. A. B. We also changed our selling strategy, right? So we added the entire digital vertical. We added the entire channel partner vertical. So if you go back 2.5, 3 years, 8 out of 10 projects we have delivered almost 60 to 70% sales done in the first 3 quarters of launch for that phase, right?
Correct.
Which means that we will not repeat this cycle wherein sentiment cycles have become shorter. We've sold less. We need to borrow to build. That cycle has been corrected.
Correct.
If you look at the projects that we have delivered over the last year and a half, our balance ready to move in inventory in the projects that we've completed now is hardly in the single digit numbers, in the sense 10 unsold units, 15, unlike in the past where it would be 100, 120, 150. So
Okay.
Going forward on account of, the reason why it increased, I don't think that will reoccur because of the change in the launch as well as selling strategy. There may be some little bit of requirement maybe for CF, which is boost construction, but that will be, within the comfortable limits.
Okay. And so my last question is, can we just perceive, what you did in Q4 of last year, around 300 odd crores of revenue from operations in one single quarter? Can we perceive the similar kind of, top line and margins over next 3, 4, 5 quarters?
See, revenue, please understand what I tell people, considering the current accounting standard that we are mandated to follow, you need to actually track sales, debt movement and cash flows. Now, revenue is heavily dependent on in a specific quarter. So I may have launched 5 projects and sold extremely well, constructing well, but if I don't have a project that's come for registration and handover in that specific quarter, that affects my revenue recognition from an optical point of view.
Correct.
Right? So, obviously, I think now with this accounting change, as a business also, we're going to time the way we launch our projects so that at least maybe a year or 2 down the line, we ensure that just from a visibility, point of view, we'll ensure that we have good buckets of handover of projects in every quarter, which will give you that kind of a better understanding and a hold on what kind of revenues we can deliver. But till then, because of this accounting standard, which is we are only able to recognize revenue against handover and final sale deed registration of our apartments.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir, and best of luck for all the upcoming quarters, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move to the next participant, we would like to request participants, if you have a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Mehak Verma from AB Advisors. Please go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen, and thanks for the opportunity. So I have 2 questions. Firstly, from a general strategic perspective, we've seen that Provident projects were the focus area for the group. But now, given people's need for more space due to the work from home culture, do you still see the smaller affordable segment as being the faster growth engine for us? And my second question would be around raw material costs. So with the raw material costs going up sharply, how do we plan on mitigating the impact of the same?
Can I take that one, Ashish?
Yes, please.
Okay. So on the second point, which is essentially on increased prices, if you see the details of the ICP that has been released, our prices have gone up in last 2 quarters consistently anywhere in the range of 7 to 12%. And that is pretty much taking care of all cost escalations and protecting our margins. So that takes care of the cost piece. And the second question was on the
Provident.
The affordable housing. So affordable housing, Provident continues to be our focus area. So out of the 14 million square foot of planned launches, if you see, 7 million is in Provident. And we believe that while the pandemic has had an impact, and work from home is definitely something people are going to look at, but that has not substantially changed people's affordability of purchase, which basically means while your interest cost has come down and that has enabled a lot of people to buy slightly larger homes, that we definitely see as a potential. So if somebody has got an appetite for 1 BHK, may push himself to buy a 2, or a 2 BHK may push himself to buy a 2.5. Having said that, this is the largest segment of real estate market which is available today, and we continue to believe that this segment will grow and provide opportunities for us, and this will continue to remain our growth focus and growth engine.
That's helpful, sir. Thank you. I'll join back the queue.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Bella D'Souza from JK Investment. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thanks for the opportunity. Congratulations on a good set of numbers. I just wanted to know if you could throw some light on what steps you are taking to further improve your credit rating. Any view how much a rating can improve going forward? And secondly, if you could explain your progression on construction activity, any labor issues on the ground. Also, if you can explain if there are any rate hikes, cost increases.
Sure. So I think as far as the rating is concerned, as a business, we're going to push hard. We're going to give it, the internal strategy is to give it a couple of months. As we get more launches out and unlock, the capital invested there and cash flows start getting even better, we will reapproach the rating agencies for another step up from the current A- that we've received. As far as the construction is concerned, I think sites, firstly, I don't think there's any labor issue at site. But because of delays, some contractors have been approaching us, I think most developers, and asking for certain escalations on account of COVID and work stopping. I think they have incurred costs as well managing their laborers. So those sort of renegotiations should not be anything material, but those renegotiations are taking some time. But I think it's a matter of another 15-20 days. But all sites have come back to normal, so there's no delay or there's no shortage of laborers at any site.
Okay, thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you. Participants, if you have a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Jay Daniel from Entropy Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm referring to your presentation, page number 17, cash flow. Your operating inflow this quarter has been quite high, 817 crores. I mean, could you give some background behind this?
That includes our collection from 515 crore from the strategic exit from our commercial asset, which I mentioned during the opening remark.
It includes the sale of that commercial asset?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And secondly, your interest cost continues to be around 75 crores, which is an annualized run rate of 300 crores. So despite your net debt coming down, why is it so high?
No, net debt came up during the quarter. Interest reflects interest on the entire quarter. And going forward basis, as we have repaid the debt during the quarter and previous quarter, it will come down. It's in a downward trend.
Okay, what would be the normal run rate for interest?
Our average interest cost is 11.78% at this point of time, which we are expecting to be reduced, because after this revised rating, that it approached all our banks and requested them to consider of revising the interest rate. Most of banks have given positive response, and our interest rate will come down further from here. Considering if our rate is 11.5% average rate at our debt level of 1,800 crore.
Okay. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.
200 crore for a year, 207 crore for the year.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Advait Kulkarni from AB Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for taking my question. So my question pertains to the COVID wave. So we do understand that collections might have got a bit impacted due to the second COVID wave, but can you help how the outlook is going forward, and will it be possible for you to share some color on the monthly trends since say last 4 to 6 months to gauge the impact of second wave of COVID?
So for the second wave of COVID, you're right, there was an impact on collections. In fact, there was an impact on sales as well because there was a lockdown in various parts of the country and it was quite severe. As we mentioned earlier, we are seeing the sales momentum pick up. With our new launches that we are planning, we believe, and the progress of the projects that we are seeing now on the ground, we believe over next 2 to 3 quarters, we will see the collections go up.
Okay, I understand. Just a follow up on the sales itself. So can you please give an outlook on sales beyond FY22 as to how it will be, or are there any specific targets for Puravankara?
We can't really give any forward-looking remarks in that context, but please understand there's 14 million square foot of new launches. So while you do a sustenance business, which is a normal course of business for launch projects, you will add on to that new projects, and then you will find new sustenance projects. So on an overall basis, on a cumulative, it will continue to grow. And as we basically launch projects, you will see both sales and collections go up.
Okay, yes, I understand. Okay. And my last question pertains to the residential business. So could you just quantify for this quarter, for this Q1 quarter, and for the year, the percentage breakup between the major cities, if that is available with you?
We'll answer this question in this detail offline.
Okay, sir. Will do. Yeah, that's all for now, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for answering.
Thank you.
We have the next question from the line of Vaibhav from BK Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Some color on this sales momentum, and since we have reduced our inventory of finished apartments, what is the trend on that, and is that helping us increase prices, and how will this trend shape up over the next 1 or 2 years? Do we expect prices to increase substantially, and if yes, by when?
So see, if you see and this is across markets, just not for Puravankara, this is across the real estate market, the overall inventory overhang is coming down. That is one, which effectively means that large quantum of RTM has already moved, and there is obviously under construction projects which are seeing momentum. And if you see the trend of last 2 quarters itself for Puravankara, you will see an upward trend in price. The reason for this upward trend in price is also because of consolidation. The customer is willing to pay a premium to a strong brand which has got a delivery track record and is continuing to deliver. So we believe that this price appreciation trend will continue as the economy also picks up. I'm sure you must have heard the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister talking about pushing growth in the economy. So we believe that we are back in that momentum, which will enable the real estate industry to gain back some of the lost years. At the same time, ensure that this momentum of both sales and pricing continues. Only disclaimer to that is it may not be applicable for everybody,
it probably is due to consolidation. It will be applicable to recognized brands, organized players, where there is trust in the brand and they have a good track record of delivery.
Okay, got that. And are we seeing any indications, sir, that prospective buyers are trying to hurry up their decisions? Are they as yet getting the feeling that if we don't buy now, then the price may go up after 1, 2, 3 months, something like that?
Sure. Means people are taking decisions. What's important is, early on, if you remember some of the conversations we've had in the past where there were a lot of fence sitters who were not taking decisions. I think that has stopped happening. The pent-up demand is definitely there, and that's what has come back to. It's unlike an FMCG, when you lose a day where that demand is gone for the day, and for the industry, for us, that demand stays. And that, I think, is pretty much back in the business. And we believe that the fence sitters are no more sitting on the fence, they're taking decisions. So that's the good news. In the current environment with lowest interest rates ever in this country, which is going to continue to be stable for quite some time now, as per the directions from the government and RBI, we believe that, this momentum will continue.
Okay, got that. And Ashish, what was the peak of the sales for our company? Like, was it 2010 or something? And by when do we see that scenario coming, if at all we see something like that?
No. I think one is, the peak at any year depends on the amount of volume you have under construction. I think it's a factor of how many new launches we have in that year. And obviously the external environment in terms of sentiment and interest rates.
I'm asking more in terms of the momentum and sentiment and external environment, like when we used to launch projects and things.
Correct. So I think currently what we've experienced ourselves in the last year, there's a huge polarization that's happening to the top 5 brands in each city. So I think prospective buyers have realized the importance of owning their home, that asset, that sense of safety and security. So keeping that in the background, interest rates low, if you're able to successfully launch, as per our target, about 14 million square foot of projects under Puravankara, Provident and Purva land across the 5-6 cities that we've planned, all these are in the final stages of approval. I think we should have a repeat of that number.
I'll just add, last year was, in value terms, one of the highest numbers we have done as a group in residential sales. We believe that with the number of launches that we have planned, this will only continue to go up.
So this 14 million which we are looking to launch, in what period can it get sold after launch?
No. So 14 million is the size of the projects that we're taking to market across 3 brands, across 6 cities. Obviously, as a strategy, we will be opening up the sales in a phased manner, right, so that we don't get stuck with a larger area to build if there is any short-term change in sentiment cycle. So they will be opened up and launched in phases. So this 14 million is the size of the entire project of that we're going to take to market.
Okay, so the phases which will be launched in the next 12 months would be maybe half of that or something like that?
Should be close, yes.
Okay, got that. And if at all sentiment picks up, Ashish, do we see this really, as all builders are talking about sentiment being good, but we are not seeing any excitement, even what you see in the stock markets or what was there in real estate in 2010 and all those. So if at all that comes, you think that can happen in FY23 or FY24? Real good demand?
I would say FY23 is what I would bet on. Even if you see, now let's go back before this lockdown that happened, right? In April, whatever lockdown, for example, Bangalore went into lockdown.
Yeah.
So please look at our quarter 3 numbers. Without a single launch, we had sold 0.91 million square feet. Quarter 4, without a launch, we had sold 0.99 million square feet, which is the highest we've ever done. So I think it was already getting there, but for this second wave that came and hit us, and then the lockdowns that came in, right? So I'm hoping that in the next, with vaccinations increasing, I think we should sort of need some sense of stability in terms of sentiment at least. But 23, I have no doubt, I think should be a big bounce back here.
So we can do even 2 million square feet a quarter and all that kind of stuff. That would be our aspiration in peak.
That would be our aspiration, subject to obviously getting our approvals in time. sometimes what happens, you miss a quarter just because some approval has gotten delayed by 1 or 2 months. But on a concept level, yes, possible.
And any challenges? What are the key challenges in that, Ashish? Like sales and this thing? Sales is becoming less and less of a challenge now going forward because of buyer interest?
No, sales is becoming, I would not say less of a challenge. I think we're seeing this kind of momentum essentially because let's understand post various actions that happened over the last 2-3 years, which is, from your DeMon to your GST to RERA. I think the number of launches sequentially year on year have been coming down for whatever reason. I think the tier 2, tier 3 developers not being able to follow rules or whatever the case may be. And then you had the final nail in the coffin, which is COVID, right? So, developers who are agile, who are able to take the right steps and, take the right decisions and keep that sort of construction on, keep the launch pipeline on, are the ones who have enjoyed this number of sales. So in an environment where interest rates are the lowest, in an environment where launches are down by 70-75%, I think the guys who are launching will see good sales.
Okay, got that. And Ashish,
This is the operator, so we have participants in the
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Monica Arora from Share Giant Wealth Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes,
I'm audible. Yeah. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. So I wanted to understand, as a real estate sector player, how do you see the demand panning out? Like, if I can say from the starting of the COVID, like in fact go before that also, like from before the COVID to the starting of the COVID, and how first wave, second wave, and now, like how you are seeing the customer behavior and demand.
So from the demand point of view, as I mentioned earlier, the fence sitters have come back to the market and are willing to take a decision now. And second and most important is people have recognized the importance of owning their own home, especially during the COVID period, when people had to work from home and there was multi-use required in the same home. The child was studying online, parents were working online. The changes that people could make if they were in a rental home versus if they are in a ownership home, plus the change in interest rates, all of these dynamics which have played out in last 1 year have made a significant difference to the way people were looking at living. And we believe that the millennials who were not really buying earlier are pretty much back and want to take that decision now because they realize that owning a home instead of staying on rent or in shared accommodation, etc., makes so much more sense and convenience. And also as an investment, it makes sense because, people are seeing great value today in the marketplace to own an asset. So in that context, we believe that decision making has changed for the customers. And of course, some bit of buying behavior because of this online and digital effort that's gone in, especially for real estate, has also made a difference in the way they are buying now.
Great. Seems fine. So one further question related to this only, that like you said, that people have understood the importance of having a good house because now they are at home only for more time, working from home and all. So does that impact your commercial sales in some way or the other because a lot of offices are closed? And how do you see it panning out in future? Because like we are seeing that some offices are declaring work from home, like they are saying that they will continue with this practice. So does it impact your commercial demand? And one another thing is like pandemic saw a lot of people losing their jobs. So the residential demand is mostly coming from the premium segment, or people are mostly looking for affordable homes?
So from the commercial point of view, essentially as the vaccinations are rolling out, people are coming back to work. We believe that the commercial demand will slowly and gradually come back to its normalcy towards the end of this year, maybe early next year, because most of the offices are getting occupied now.
And the reason is that people have realized that collaboration and being in the office, both for the organization and for individuals or employees, is very, very critical to their own success as well as well-being. The second piece is that to some extent work from home will happen. There will be some impact, but there will be de-densification of offices because of the requirement of space for individuals who are sitting in the office. And hence, if any impact of work from home, it will be kind of neutralized or nullified. On the second part, as far as the residential piece is concerned, can you repeat what you'd asked?
Yeah, so I was asking that, as we see that many people have lost their jobs due to COVID. So is that impacting your premium sales? Like what people are preferring nowadays? Are they mostly coming for the premium ones, or they are looking for something which is affordable?
Both the segments, we have seen really no special change in terms of whether going for premium or affordable. I think both the demands are pretty much back, and people are, as I said earlier, people who are not taking buying decisions are taking buying decisions based on their affordability. So we are seeing increasing trend of in both the segments. Of course, RTM was the first one to take off, and which is why you see that that kind of moved pretty quickly for everybody. But more and more people are now looking at buying in under construction with the current interest rate environment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for answering my questions so patiently. I'll come back in the queue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Mehak Verma from AB Advisors. Please go ahead.
So sir, it's great to see signs of improvement in realization, since the past 2 to 3 quarters. But would you be able to throw some color as to how much of it is due to the price increase?
Due to price increase. Yeah. So price increase, as I mentioned earlier in the call, is overall between 7 and 12%. And the rest could also be because of the mix of inventory, etc. Because we did launch some higher value projects, and then of course the inventory mix as it moves has changed. But if you take the price increase, it will be anywhere between 7 to 12%.
Got it. And also, how do we see the demand shaping up on the commercial office side?
I think what I understand when we talk to companies and we see the movement, most companies have renewed their leases. I think in terms of expansions that they were looking at, future expansion, which is more from the 2004-2005 point of view, I think those decisions have been sort of put on pause. But not for long. What I get to understand is maybe maximum a quarter or 2 to understand how the vaccination and COVID pans out. I think it's a short-term disruption, should not have a long-term sort of an effect in change, and this whole work from home concept may affect a maximum of 10%, not more than that.
Got it, sir. That's very helpful. Thank you and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Sanket Deshmukh from Lab Investment. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for taking my question. So my question is, from a strategy perspective, if we see, if we are very confident on the residential upcycle, does it make sense to be really aggressive on the business development right now before the cycle actually kicks in?
Yes, definitely.
Sorry?
Yes, it does. Definitely, it makes sense. You're right. And in fact, we are out there. Our focus markets are Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Pune, while we are continuing to do business in other markets, the rest of the cities. But we are really focused on business development right now, and we have very, very substantial and interesting and exciting opportunities coming our way, which we are grabbing.
Okay, sir, I understand. And just to follow up on the earlier participant's question, so it is related to the to the raw material cost going up sharply. So what are your plans to mitigate the impact on the same? As in, will the costs of the of the projects increase, and in parallel to that, will the customers will have to pay high, or will it be like you'll be playing a bit on margin over there on profits?
So as I mentioned earlier, the price rise has pretty much mitigated any impact on the margins due to escalating costs. And of course, from the customer's point of view, in the current environment with the current loan rates, I think there are savings for them because we've never seen loan rates at the current level, so that kind of saves interest and EMI outgoes for them. But at the same time, of course, this cost increase has been passed on to the customer. So.
Okay, sir. That answers my questions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We would like to remind participants, if you have a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Monica Arora from Share Giant Wealth Advisors. Please go ahead.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity again. So could you throw some light on, like in the last few years, we have seen many events happening, like demonetization or the GST coming in, and then this pandemic. So how do you see the consolidation in the sector or the competitive intensity in the sector? Also, how is the competitive intensity was earlier post all these, pre all these events? And how is the competitive intensity now, especially from the unorganized players?
So I think an industry as deep and as complex as real estate, unfortunately, if I go back 10 years, had absolutely no barriers to entry. If your uncle owned a piece of land, you could become a developer. And you've seen that across cities.
Yes,
some
correct.
relative has the land, and then you will just catch somebody, do some plan sanction, catch a contractor, do something, go to a real estate agent, and he'll sell it for you. What we have seen that I think obviously these people did not get their approvals properly. There were violations. They dealt in cash, etc., etc. Today, I think from the start of Demon to GST to RERA, we've seen the industry clean up. We've seen that consolidation. You've seen the market share of the top organized players go up significantly. A simple proof is the drop in the number of launches. So the top guys are still launching the way they were launching average over the last 5 to 6 years. So the drop has predominantly come from the tier 3 and tier 2 players within each city. And that in itself is the proof of consolidation.
Correct. And how this it has favored the pricing trend, like this consolidation?
So we've seen that, in spite of, COVID, etc., we especially, from the second quarter of last year, third quarter of last year, fourth quarter of last year, we have consistently been revising our costs, selling prices upwards. And we've been able to, at least in the fourth quarter, we've been able to hold the sales velocity. So I think it's simple economics. The minute you see the number of launches come down, and if the supply comes down by way of launches down, and as well as the ready to move in inventory, which has seen a great absorption over the last 2 years, there will be some pricing power that will come back to the top brands.
Okay, that's it. Fine, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Neeraj Singh from KD Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, good evening, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Just one question on leverage first. So it's very encouraging to see the reduction in the leverage. Can you throw some light on how the trend is going to be going forward? And what are your plans for repayment of debt in entire FY22?
So I think I had answered this question previously, but I think I'll repeat what I said. I think an organization of our size, and I think with the current volume of projects that we have on hand and the new launches that we have planned for the year, I believe that anywhere which is about a 2,100 to 2,200 crore debt level is a very comfortable debt level, as long as it's construction finance and the cost is low. Having said that, I think as we accelerate launches, obviously you'll unlock the investment and the capital invested in these lands. So that will also have a positive effect on the debt by way of unlocking your cash flows and also that debt number coming down. I imagine that we should hover around this 2,200 levels going forward. The only account on which debt may increase, I think, would be certain projects, little bit of construction finance required to accelerate construction, etc., or a selling strategy where I may get a little better pricing on a luxury product if I reach a certain stage and then launch, only on account of that.
So just to add, please understand debt is a factor of quantum of square footage on the floor at any point in time and the quantum of business one is trying to do. So in our mind, as we progress and scale up on the quantum of business, these are very, very reasonable debt levels that we're talking about.
And for FY 21-22 perspective, if I look at the rest of the year, our repayment obligation is not more than 150 crore scheduled repayment obligation because some of our loans has been repaid for the cash collection of the project, and we have also paid some of the loans during last quarter, and hence from a repayment perspective, we are quite comfortable up to March 2022 and going forward basis also.
Right. Thank you for the detailed answer, sir. Just a quick add-on to that. What kind of debt equity or debt EBITDA ratio can we look at from the next 2 to 3 year perspective?
That's again something which is a very, very forward-looking statement. But I think we will hover around the current levels for sure.
And as a matter of fact, today we are at 0.9 as compared to 1.34 times a year ago. So our debt to equity ratio is consistently coming down, improving, and it will improve further also.
Right. Thank you for that explanation, sir. Just one last question, if I may. Can you comment on how this transaction with Godrej is going to help us? That's my last question. Thank you.
No, so this was a transaction. So basically, obviously, our strength and focus is we've been doing residential 70-80% of our business. So we had a commercial portfolio. We've built about 3 million square foot of offices, which we had sold, but we continue to manage them in terms of lease and maintenance. We had built up another additional portfolio of 9.5 million square foot of office space. Strategically, just pre-COVID, we had decided to exit 2.5 million square foot of that. Of that, 1 million square foot is what we did with the Godrej fund. They had set up an office fund wherein it was, almost like a forward purchase. So it was with all approvals, but we didn't want to take the risk of construction and commodity prices, etc., because we get stuck on one selling price. So that is where we exited that 1 million square foot, and they will build out that office and own it and operate it.
Understood, sir. Thank you so much for the answer.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Jay Daniel from Entropy Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Your economic interest in land assets is mentioned as 51.41 million square feet. Now, would this be the largest land holding that, compared to your competition, your listed developers, would this by size be the largest?
I would say one of the top. I don't know about the largest. I don't know how people report. So what we have done, I think from day one, from when we got listed, we shared with you the economic interest we have in our land. So, owning 100 acres in Gurgaon versus Bangalore versus Mumbai versus Calcutta means nothing to a non-developer because you don't understand the development potential or the FSI that can be built on that land. Today, what we share with you is our economic interest, how much we can build on those lands, what is the potential that we can build. Unfortunately, I don't know if other companies apply that formula. They bounce around between acreage. So I don't know, but I would imagine, yes, one of the largest.
Because bulk of it is in Bangalore. And what is the quality of the land? Is it in, how is the location? Is it in far-flung places or, location-wise, it's quite decent?
Every land that we own today, every land, in my opinion, can be developed today, either a Purvantara or a Provident affordable housing or a Purva land where you can do plotted development. Fortunately, we do not have any land where we are halfway stuck because of aggregation, which means we have bought pockets and we can't develop it today because we need to still fill in the pockets or consolidate, etc. So fortunately, we don't have that way.
And any pending land payments are there? I mean, the amounts which you have to pay for this 51.41? Or is it fully paid?
No. It's fully paid.
Fully paid. And what is your plans for land acquisition beyond this?
So, land acquisition, land is our raw material, right?
Correct.
Now,
right.
Today, for example, south of Bangalore, again, which is a good market, we've got good, maybe 4 or 5 large land parcels where we may not acquire a lot more immediately, aggressively. But there are newer markets like east of Bangalore, where we just have another land parcel. So obviously we're evaluating that micro market to see if we can add to that land bank. Obviously, considering the last 2-3 years, the focus is to conserve capital, so leverage the brand. So the first option would always be a joint development. So there's just a 10% of the value of land as an outlay to secure that project. Having said that, if you get something really good, in these times you get a good opportunity, great value, we will evaluate it even from an outright perspective. Now that is as far as Bangalore is concerned.
What is the outlay that you have? I mean, for land for the year and for this year and next? I mean, approximately.
There is no committed outlay. So land. The nature of land is, when you start negotiating, you get into a term sheet, then you get into title. There are some transactions that get completed in 3 months, some in 8 months, and some have taken 2.5 years, because it's the landowner's responsibility to clear the title, right? So
right.
There is no fixed time that you can close a land acquisition in. So being a developer and land being a raw material, we got to constantly be in the market, evaluating new opportunities, and we will also have a large bucket of opportunities where we have started title on, because you never know, the timeline of completing these acquisitions. But you need that raw material in terms of a pipeline of launches.
And this 14 million of launches is included in this 18.73 of ongoing projects?
No, that's over and above that.
So it's 14 plus 18, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question, and we will now close the question queue. I would like to hand the conference over to Mr. Neeraj Gautam for closing comments. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and attention. I hope me and my colleagues were able to answer all your questions. However, if you require any further discussion, we are always available for the discussion during the coming weeks. Thank you and wish you a very happy weekend as well as happy Independence Day in advance. Jai Hind.
Thank you, members of the management and Mr. Jain. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Emkay Global Financial Services, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.